Okay. Okay. It's recording now. All right. Hello, I'm Courtney Brown, and I am the moderator for the debate. Our topic was if mandatory ABA services should be included in providing students with ASD a free and appropriate public education. The right for all students, not just typically developing students for access to a free and public education, was mandated in the Education for All Handicapped Children's Act in 1975. The members of the group are Amanda Gilman from Indianapolis, and her role will be the prover. Alicia Wendling from Cincinnati will be the group starter. Amanda Joy from Colorado will be the attacker. The rules of the group are the prover and the attacker will each get a chance to debate each point. Neither member should be talking for more than 2 minutes at a time. When they get to their 15-second mark, I will do this hand signal to let them know that their time's almost up, and Alicia will open the debate by stating the group's position.
And I'm just gonna say hi. I'm the instructor for this class. I'm Deepti. My role is the jumper. I'm just gonna jump in between whenever I feel like.
All right. Alicia, you want to get started? Okay.
I am getting started right now.
Sorry, I was in
So as Courtney stated, our topic is, should a free and appropriate public education include mandatory ABA services for children and youth with ASD in schools? The position our group has taken is to support that ABA services should be provided in the Free and Appropriate Public Education Act due to the evidence-based strategies and techniques that have been proven to work with the majority of ASD populations. This decision was not based on our position of being in school for behavior analysis, but rather the articles and evidence that outweigh the lack of cons, as you will see when Amanda discuss the pros and cons next. So I'm going to highlight some of the cons for you, and then I'll highlight some of the pros, and then I'll let Amanda take it away. Some of the cons that will be discussed in this debate are the cost and funding it takes to have a BCBA on staff and to train other staff members under a BCBA. So this would include adding on a BCBA on top of the staff that the school already has. And this could be very costly for some schools, and Amanda will get into that later. The second con goes along with the first in that the time it will take to train staff members to an effective point. Certain staff members may take longer than others to be trained effectively, and this could lend problems to the school for schools that lack staff members or can't afford to lose staff members at certain points. Thirdly, the population of ASD in public schools is a minority within the special education population, and ABA focuses more on ASD than other special needs. And this was found in a few articles that we researched, and this raises a problem because if we were to bring in a BCBA that focuses on ASD and ASD isn't the majority of special needs within that school, then what is that BCBA going to provide to other students? And fourth and last con that I will discuss is it may change the way school systems teach. And this may lend a problem to the school system in that with any type of change, there may be problems that arise. And some school systems may find that they can't deal with the problems or they're not at a place to change their systems yet. And so with those being the cons, I'm going to list some pros now that Amanda will discuss in greater detail during their debate. So the first pro is the effectiveness of ABA, and this will include research articles and organizations that have made an impact or produced results that indicate the success of ABA in schools. And like I said, that will be discussed in further detail. Second, in response to the training con, we have the training model also as a pro because of the effectiveness of the effectiveness and the wise use of resources. The third pro is the benefits that can occur in the public school setting related to bullying, self-care, communication, and other areas. And obviously, this is a great benefit for schools because it affects both atypical and typical children and can help the community of the school by lessening these problems. Fourth, the use of ABA strategies that are already being used, such as token economies and group contingencies. And what I mean by this is strategies that are included in ABA are more than likely already being used in the school system, and teachers don't even know it. So by bringing in a BCBA to train teachers on how to use it appropriately, we can increase the effectiveness of those strategies to help the classroom in general. And the last pro that I'm going to highlight is the increase in ASD prevalence and awareness is rising. And with this being the case, there's going to be more children with ASD in the public school system with years to come. So getting a BCBA in earlier would be better than waiting until the population has grown and we don't have an effective way to teach. So with that being said, I am going to lend it to Amanda to discuss the points head on with each other.
Okay, so as Alyssa stated, applied behavioral analysis has been found to be very effective. The American Academy of Pediatrics stated the effectiveness of ABA-based interventions in autism spectrum disorders has been well documented through 5 decades of research by using single subject methodology and in controlled studies of comprehensive early intensive behavioral intervention programs in universities and community settings. ABA focuses on the principles of learning to improve socially significant behaviors. It works to make positive behavior changes. And it systematically applies interventions like modeling, joint attention, story-based interventions, antecedent manipulations, and behavioral treatments, which are all scientifically driven by objective data. The U.S. Surgeon General determined that ABA is an effective treatment for all children with an autism spectrum disorder. But it's important to realize that ABA can be used on any observable behavior. And then lastly, the American Psychological Association stated that medications and behavioral interventions can help children cope with autism. Since medications on their own rarely improve behavior, behavioral interventions are crucial.
I, on the other hand, believe that it costs way too much to have an ABA in schools. School funding is already very, very limited. It's actually going downhill, as in the past 2 decades it has been. According to a written article in the Washington Post, most states already have declining funds, except for 5. There are 5 states that do not. But high poverty districts are getting the worst funding. So if we give funding to a school district that already has quite a bit of money, then we're taking away more from high poverty districts where those students need, whether it's food, whether it's school supplies, you name it, we're taking away from them. So ABA would have some big startup costs, according to the behavior analysts today, and that means hiring ABAs, doing training, whatever the case may be, tools that ABA or BCBAs would use, and not only that, universities have been decreasing the amount of ABA programs. And due to this, ABAs may be few and far between. It might be hard to find a good one. And at that, if we do find a good one, they're probably going to expect a lot of money. The average salary for a BCBA could be $73,000 at most. $73,000 a year. And then if this is the case, it could take away from supplies, from student funding, again, and food, things that students need that we don't always necessarily think about when it comes to their education. And then I don't think that if we had an ABA, we wouldn't be necessarily looking at student benefits. There's already a high demand for money in the school system. Teachers, we need more teachers. That would take away from providing teachers. Right now, there's about 30 kids per class, and if we could hire more teachers, we can diminish the amount of kids that we have per class. And with ABAs in schools, it would just be taking away from somewhere else, which I don't find effective.
Okay, implementing a program, an ABA program specifically, would have a lot of costs, but so do all other programs that are implemented throughout school systems each year. But there are ways to decrease these costs, and the main way that I'm going to look at is like training these individuals. One training model is the pyramid training model that's also called train the trainers. So what happens is one expert comes into the school or works for the school already, maybe a behavior analyst or a school psychologist, who trains, say, 3 people specifically, and those people will be the new trainers. So instead of just training one set of people at a time, the trainers will be able to meet 3 times as many, and then it's delivered to a relatively small number at the beginning, but that number grows, so it decreases costs in the long run.
I agree, training, it could be limited, but at the same time, teachers don't have time to train. There's no time to do any of this stuff. Teachers are already going overboard, and they don't get paid very much. So the time for training, it's not fair to ask of teachers. And the Association for Curriculum and Development put a focus on the need for teachers on what they're training during, or what they're doing during their planning periods. And a lot of times teachers feel that if planning periods are taken over by training, they can't create adequate instruction. So that includes our students with autism who, if the teacher is spending all their time getting trained, they can't then provide appropriate instruction, which then causes the teachers maybe not being able to make a plan or make a lesson plan that is unique to the individual that's in their classroom. So that's one of the issues. So teachers already have a lot of meetings, and in order to be effective with ABA in schools, training will take a lot of time in order to perfect, a lot of time, and teachers just don't have that time, administrators don't have that time. And again, most students who would benefit from ABA already have paraprofessionals or special education staff working with them. So why can't we just train special educators or paraprofessionals rather than train the whole school?
Going off your last point, training the whole school is important because eventually those kids with an autism spectrum disorder are included in certain parts of the classroom. So it's important for those teachers to be prepared when those students are in their classrooms. And training is already required by teachers, so why not add in a little ABA? And some of the benefits of ABA can improve the communication of the entire classroom, self-care of students within the classroom, the social relationships, and then more specifically with the children with autism, ABA can improve the learning, the reasoning, the communication, and the adaptability. So with those benefits, I don't see how schools cannot provide the training for ABA.
Yeah, and one thing that I really want to focus on, though, is that ABA mainly focuses on children with autism spectrum disorder. And Axelrod suggests that ABA has narrowed its focus greatly to only students with ASD or other developmental disabilities. In my current school that I teach at right now, we have about 3,000 students and only 17 have autism spectrum disorder. So to me, that proves that why would we implement a system that only affects the minority of students. I also want to look at that school psychologists are already in schools. They're already paid to be there. And they work with students in special education. They work with students with autism. So couldn't they just learn about ABA and then maybe teach the people that need to know? but other than that, there's not many students with autism or that need ABA services in schools.
So teachers use ABA all the time. They may not realize it, and they may not have kids with autism within their classroom, but when they use positive behavioral intervention supports, that's a form of ABA. When they use token economies, I see that all the time in class. And then at the end of the month, they'll get to go door and get in their ticket. Other things like are a type of reward system in doing your homework. So with more training, teachers would be able to implement these strategies more effectively. And it's important to note that, yeah, ABA is been found by the U.S. General Surgeon to be an effective treatment for ASD, but it can also be used on any observable behavior. So yeah, it's extremely effective with kids with ASD, but it can be used on any problem behavior, any behavior as long as it's observable.
So with that being said, yeah, it could focus on other students, but why would we change the way that school systems are already teaching? They already have a method that's set into place. Teachers are already effective in what they do. They go to school for teaching, so why would we change something that isn't broken necessarily? Changing the way people teach, again, could take more time, taking away from planning time, making teachers upset that they probably have to learn ABA, and then the stubbornness comes out, and again, it's just looking at the most effective strategies and going from there. If we had ABA, teachers will need to restructure their whole classroom. Administrators would need to restructure their whole school. And what schools are doing for students is student-driven at this point. So I just don't see a need to go in and change that right now.
So the CDC, their most recent numbers says that 1 in every 68 children are diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder, and it occurs in all ethnic, racial, and socioeconomic groups. So it's clear that autism is on the rise, and it has been for years, and there are more and more children with an autism diagnosis that are entering schools each year. So my question is, if we wait until the school system is broken, how much is it going to cost then when the teachers are overwhelmed with so many kids with an ASD diagnosis within their classroom? They're going to need a lot more people coming in to help rather than starting now and slowly implementing ABA within schools.
All right, with that being said, that is the end of our debate between Amanda and Amanda. And as I stated earlier, our position stands that ABA services should be provided to ASD students with the Free and Appropriate Public Education Act. And we believe that the pros outweigh the cons, and in that in the long run, it will help and benefit schools, and rather than be cost effective and timely right now, yes, those may be things and problems that we run into. And yes, maybe ASD isn't as prevalent in the school system as it will be in the next 10 years. But in the next 10 years, we are going to see more ASD children in the school system, and we need to be prepared for that. So why not implement this now so that we go through this change when there's less and it affects less people, than go through it later when more people will be affected by not having those services. So we stand by our decision to support that ABA services should be provided to all children with ASD on the free and appropriate public education. And with that being said, we have ended our debate.
Oh, can I just add? I agree with, it's kind of it's a policy-wide thing. It's just the way schools are. I think it's, I definitely as a behavior analyst believe that it should be, but I think sometimes we just get so focused on we and our little world of ABA and our little clientele of ASD that we don't see how the changes have to really come from the top or maybe actually grassroots level. And I think the problem perhaps is that when we sell it as how more and more people are really kind of narrowing down ABA use as specifically and exclusively only for kids or people with ASD, that's where the problem is. That you sell it as this product that is only used by 17 out of 3,000 kids. I don't even know what percentage that is. That's probably not even 3,000, 1%, 30. It's not even 1%, right? So you sell it as a product that is going to be used by 1%. I think that's the right number. 1% or even 10% of the population, people who, and funding for a lot of things in public schools is just such a challenge that people see that as a luxury, like the other Amanda, second Amanda was saying that why would I invest so much in something that is only for 17 kids? The school psychologist only is coming in as it is. So when we view it with that narrow sellability for just kids with autism, youth with autism, that's the problem. The problem isn't ABA. The problem is that how it is just labeled as this product only for this particular population. It's like getting a wheelchair ramp in public school. It wasn't a big thing. It wasn't something maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Schools weren't cognizant of the need for these kids. And, even smaller percentage of kids in public schools are in wheelchairs. So, but there is a ramp for them, right? So I think a lot of times, because somebody can say, oh, we have strong teachers, they can just lift the kids into school. Why do we need a wheelchair? So it's a mindset. It's a paradigm shift. And I think what we as behavior analysts can do is to really branch out and not think of it as something just for ASD only. I see, when I see students in other classrooms and they have to do projects for this class, they only want to find, or they think they only can use a child with ASD. And I want you as the future behavior analyst to understand that it is our job to make ABA more sellable. There are reading programs that schools use. They spend money. Houghton Mifflin and Touch Math is actually free, but there are all these programs that are like high cost. They have like this thick volumes, and people have to get certified and go for trainings. The reading specialist has to go spend 2 days getting trained, and people don't see that not everybody is needing that Houghton Mifflin reading intervention. Only some people in the resource group are. So, but I think, and I think also a lot of people think ABA as really just something you do when kids are having tantrums. People don't understand that ABA is a teaching procedure that you can use even when you don't have a student with ASD in your classroom. And you see it as this exclusive product, and that's the problem. So it is our job when we are out in in public, even when we're talking to our friends and family, to sort of enlighten them about what ABA is and how it doesn't not touch anybody's lives. It touches all of our lives even before we were ABA, even before we were in this field. So I think it's important to kind of look at ABA not as therapy but as a teaching procedure. And I think you guys did a wonderful job, the two Amandas. Oh, which one is Amanda Gilbert and which one is the other Amanda? So okay, you're Amanda Gilbert. Okay. So I just was making notes, so I know whose note is which one. But I think you guys did a very nice research in terms of what it would mean for it to be in schools, but also to realize that it is already part of the free and appropriate education. To give schools the credit that it is, the ones who have behavior goals in their IEPs, or the kids with ASD, or even with other developmental disabilities, when they need to learn to do anything in schools. There are school psychologists, there are behavior analysts who are doing task analysis. You're doing so, to give the credit that schools are doing it, and you're talking it about being the trainers within the school being able to deliver those services. But it is sort of already integrated good enough, and maybe down the road, as the wheelchair ramps are everywhere within a school now, the school buildings are so aware of it. Maybe down the road we can hope that schools see it as an integrated learning strategy rather than, because they could use ABA for all these kids who are getting suspended and are in detention. They could easily use that. So I think it's just a matter of, we doing a better job selling it and telling them how ABA is, what ABA is, and how it can be applied to just about everybody and anybody. That's my input. That's my jumping around.
Thank you for that input. It was
Yeah.
very insightful.
So we're done with the debate?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, great. So why don't we end the recording and we can all stick around for a little bit and just chat.
Okay, I will end it.